now, baby, we are right back into the action for another day of the week. Welcome to the Thursday edition of Before You Bet right here on the Covers YouTube channel. Make sure you smash that subscribe button right down there. So coming off of a 2-0 performance with my picks on Monday Night Football, going to try to bring that winning energy right back into today. Kind of an interesting looking game here. Thursday Night Football, certainly some interesting looking betting opportunities. So we're going to get into that game. We're going to get into some of the action on Sunday, some of the big storylines in the NFL. Second half of the show, we'll be discussing some college football with Brad Powers. Davis Sanchez will be along as well. And let's bring in my first guest here, my coworker here at Covers, my guy Jingles, with that famous smile. Now, Jingles, I do have to apologize. When you were on the show last week, I said that smile was, no, I do have to apologize. Like, I technically do. I said that your smile was creepy. HR reached out to me after the show. They said that was very inappropriate, and they would like me to give you a formal apology here on YouTube. So I am sorry. Do you accept my apology?
Because you're on Shahid long reception, I'll certainly take it, because I think there's even more room on the bone than the 18.5.
Okay, well, you just gave away one of my picks. No big deal. That's coming up.
Now we're even.
Yes, sir. Okay, that's coming up here momentarily. So we have 3 total picks between the two of us for this game, and we'll take a look at your best bet for Sunday's NFL action. So let's get into the game tonight. My best bet for the game, I'm going to take under 40. Big shock. I'm taking an under in another Saints game. Now, Trevor Lawrence is questionable at the time of this recording. I'm making this bet with the expectation that he will play. Hey, if he doesn't, even better for this bet. But if he does play, he won't be at 100%. So check out the Saints here. They've gone under in 15 of their last 16 games. Only 2 of these games crossed 39 combined points. They've yet to cross 37 combined points with an opponent in a game this season. We have some red flags for each of these offenses here. Jacksonville is 24th on third down. So we could see a lot of punts from them tonight versus a Saints defense that's 3rd in third down defense. New Orleans offense, 28th in the red zone, so expect more field goal attempts and touchdowns if they can get in close. The Saints could struggle to run the football tonight. This is something they've had trouble with all season. They're taking on a Jaguars defense that's in the top 10 in yards per rush allowed. Maybe flying under the radar, the Jags are having trouble moving the football through the air, 20th in yards per pass attempt. The Saints are top 5 in yards allowed per pass attempt. So I think what we have here is a perfect recipe for a low-scoring game. Give me the under for my best bet for the game. Jingles, your best bet for the game. What are you looking at here?
Before I get to mine, I got to give you props. So your Thursday night takes have been hot since basically since the more overplay. I'm happy to be on this side too, on the under team total. Now, let me just preface this by saying I took this on Tuesday. I got a 17.5. This number is now 19.5, despite the spread going from -2.5 to -1 to -2.5 again. But there's not a big difference between the 17.5 and the 19.5, 18 and 19 points. Not big numbers. Here we are. Lawrence, like you said, he's more probable than doubtful this time. He still has to go through the workout. That's what we're seeing here this afternoon. But CJ Beathard is not a great option following up the backup. It's been an average offense. It's been an average offense all year. But the other big injuries that people really aren't talking about are to the O-line with Brandon Scherf and Walker Little. That's a big issue. This New Orleans defense is already elite, and they don't get pressure. So if they can even generate some more pressure, they could be even better versus a team that can't run the ball, struggles to run the ball. And I don't know, if CJ Beathard's under center, it could be an issue. So happy to be on Jacksonville team total under here. And I think the Saints indoors on a short week here can really hold them down.
Okay, next up, let us take a trip to Prop City. And we hinted at this one in the opening of the show. There's a couple different ways you could bet this guy, but for Rashid Shaheed, I think the best way you can bet him is take his longest reception over 18.5 yards, -115. So look for him to take the top off this Jags defense as New Orleans' most explosive receiver. The target volume for him can be a bit feast or famine, but he does have 6 receptions of 20 or more yards so far this season, 3 of 40 or more. So this is a big play guy, and Jacksonville is getting beat on a lot of explosive plays this season. it should be a strategy for the Saints to beat them deep. So check out some of these performances here by the Jaguars defense so far. Last week, 3 separate Colts had receptions of 40 or more against them. Week 3,
Wow.
3 different Bills had receptions of 29 or more. Even the dinky Falcons managed a 33-yard reception against them. Texans had a couple of big ones. So did the Chiefs. So did the Colts again back in week 1. So this is a bit of a pattern we're seeing for the Jaguars defense, and it seems to be getting worse for them. So Shaheed over 18.5 for his longest reception is my favorite prop for Thursday Night Football. Jingles, let's look ahead to Sunday. What's your favorite bet for the games on Sunday?
Yeah, credit on that Shaheed play. Absolutely love it. Like I said, milestones plus 625 for 40 or more, which is a big number. And obviously, remember Tyson Campbell, starting corner, their best coverage guy. He's out. So
yes.
love some big plays. Great call there, Joe. For Sunday, I'm looking at the Bills. Now I'm looking at the Bills that had to play back-to-back games across the Atlantic Ocean. They didn't look great in either of them, but in the 3 games prior to going over to London and facing the Jags, when they showed up on a Friday for a Sunday game, they were averaging over 400 yards per game, over 40 points a game, and 6.4 yards per play. Injuries to this New England secondary are substantial. They had already been out with Carlos Gonzalez, who was their best coverage corner. Jonathan Jones is now out, and he adds to a list of 4 total DBs, corners that are out or on the IR. They have the longest injury list of the season. It is extensive. It goes across the O-line. It goes across the defense. Matthew Judon is out, and the weather is a big factor here. We're going to see 20-mile-an-hour winds. There's a lot of that over the East Coast, but I'm taking Josh Allen, big hands, Josh Allen in the weather. I'm not trusting Mac Jones with poor passing conditions. This is a guy who barely has a leash on the starting job and might not even see the second half. So it's twofold with the Bills team total over 24.5. The offense can score, but that defense, or more or less basically the New England offense, is going to be giving the ball away quick. So it's going to be a big time of possession win for the Bills, and 24.5. I think we see them more weeks 1 to 4 than we saw them in weeks 5 to 6.
Yeah, Bills to score, and we have seen them beat the living crap out of the Patriots a couple times in recent seasons, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a repeat of that on Sunday. Okay, Jingles, that does it, but before we let you go, tell us a little bit about what you have going on over at Covers that the great viewers can check out.
Still doing MLB releases with Derek Hardy and the Bat Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Well, that keeps going. Hockey releases live with Carlo Koliakovo Wednesday, Friday, and Saturdays. Here on Thursdays, I'll be running. I'll be on the social scene tonight for Thursday Night Football, so you can catch me there. But in the next 5 minutes, I'll be going to bet Joe's Raheed Shaheed over 18.5 and laddering it up to 40 if you need me.
Yeah, there we go. Give our guy a follow on Twitter, Covers_Josh. Josh, thank you for joining us. We'll catch you again next Thursday. Best of luck with your bets.
All right, keep cashing, Joe.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The man. Okay, let's keep on rolling. Let's roll right into our next guest in his traditional Thursday spot. If you watch football up here in Canada, you know this guy from TSN. We welcome in former San Diego Charger and 3-time Grey Cup champion, Davis Sanchez. Davis, how are you feeling on this Thursday afternoon?
I'm awesome. Ready to rock. I got some good stuff here, and listening to you guys, I just found some more. I don't put that Shaheed, or don't put too much on that Shaheed, because I want to jump on that as well after I get off here. But feeling good. Let's go.
Okay, so before we get into the stuff for tonight and this weekend, let's start a little bit different. I want to throw a different type of question at you. I want to get the perspective of a former player, a guy who's been in a bunch of different locker rooms. So something we saw last week, we saw the 49ers. They were in a position to win that game against the Browns. It was a very tough game, a lot of injuries for them in that game. Jake Moody steps up to kick a 41-yard field goal, a very makeable kick. And of course, he kind of choked. He missed it. So the first thing I'm thinking is that's going to be a long, quiet flight home for the 49ers. So my question to you as a former player, we see that situation every couple of weeks, I guess, in the NFL, a game-winning kick possibility, and the kicker misses it. Is there typically a lot of resentment from the other players towards the kicker when they miss an easy kick that would have clinched the win for them?
No, I don't think so. Everybody realizes, we all have our plays, whatever it is that you give up. We realize the kicker is, that one is a spotlight. But I will say this: there's another angle to that, and it's if you're the Niners and you built a team over the last few years, it's Super Bowl or bust, it's dynasty type, roster. Why have a rookie kicker? Why have a young kicker? Although immensely talented, I feel like that roster is one that you want to, you're going to go through all this, get to the pinnacle of the Super Bowl, the NFC Championship again, and then put hopes on someone that's never done it before. I mean, at least at this level. That's what I don't get. Maybe I think you're better off to have a veteran guy who can bang everything from 45 and under or 48 and under, instead of having a guy that can knock down 55-yarders for this team and this roster at this time. That's the way I feel.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it. I was just thinking of Moody, just the young guy on that flight home. My God, man, that must have been. I feel bad when I have a bad night betting. I feel like shit. I couldn't imagine the situation that he was in. But yeah, if it's a good team, they would rally around him a little bit, I would hope, and we'll see that. Hopefully he can bounce back here. But let's hop into this game tonight. Of course, a big question mark, Trevor Lawrence. I think he's probably going to play. I guess the knee was improving throughout the week here, but tight spread, kind of a low total. Your thoughts on the game as a whole and a couple of your best bets, of course.
Yeah, I'm with you on the under in this game. Everything I look at and how this game plays out leans under. Both sides kind of need to try to control the ball and control the clock in this situation. But here's my best play. This is not going to be a popular play. Christian Kirk under 52.5. And here's why with Kirk. And I actually found this play. One of my partners in the industry here, it was talking to me yesterday about, the Saints struggles with slot receivers. And so we know how good Christian Kirk is. Obviously one of the best slot receivers, tons of targets, a crafty route runner. So I went and looked it up and wanted to see kind of the matchup with Alontae Taylor and Christian Kirk, because I thought that was going to be the play, the Kirk over. And that actually led me to the under. Watching Alontae Taylor play in the slot for the Saints, his PFF grade was 48, very low. So I thought, okay, in coverage, I thought, okay, this is a play. It's going to be an overplay. So I went and watched back a bunch of his snaps, coverage snaps, third down snaps. What he does, he's super athletic. He's a press corner, and Dennis Allen plays man more than, he's top 5 man coverage in the NFL. He's a press corner. What's that mean? It means it's going to take a lot of time for Christian Kirk to get into his routes. That's what I saw every time with Alontae Taylor. He's physical, he's long, he's athletic. If Christian Kirk had time to set him up, I would take the over in this. But because of the injury to Trevor Lawrence, he's got to get the ball out fast. I hate this. I hate this matchup. Obviously, the number's inflated because everyone realizes that that's kind of the security blanket for Trevor Lawrence is Christian Kirk. The under is a play because of the style of play of the Saints defense, man-to-man coverage, and the style of Alontae Taylor, who's a long, physical, rangy corner that makes you work to get off press into your route. And I don't think Trevor Lawrence has time consistently to do that.
That's why I like having you on the show. It's a very different type of analysis with myself and a lot of other people who do betting type of content. It's all, hey, this has happened 4 of the last 5 times these teams have played, or an average of this, an average of this, an average of that. So great analysis from you there. Next up, there's a spot you like for Alvin Kamara tonight. What are you targeting there?
Yeah, Alvin Kamara. So I guess the thought process here, and I listened to Mickey Loomis, the GM for the Saints, and he made the point, and obviously when you're hearing from the GM, it holds some weight. He made the point, he said, we need to lean on our defense right now. Our defense is really good. We need to lean on our defense because our offense is going through some growing pains. Now, to me, I looked at everyone's talking about the red zone situation, right? Their struggles in the red zone. They tried to run the ball 3 times in a row down there. 0 push. Alvin Kamara's not getting any holes. And for me, if you want to try to control the clock, try to lean on that defense, like Mickey Loomis says, but you can't get a push and run the ball. The next best thing is to get the ball into your running back's hands, and that's with the screen game or quick swing passes, just stuff to kind of still control the clock, still control the ball, but try to get Alvin Kamara into some space. So I like 30.5. What is it? Yeah, 30.5 right now. I like the Kamara receiving over. I just think that's the way the game plays out, and all that kind of what I said. It leans to your play, and that's the under. By the way, all the betting stuff you guys talk about, I watched a bunch of stuff yesterday, and I'm watching all you guys throughout the week on covers. Different ways to look at things. You guys are betting experts. You guys are industry experts, and so for me to see how the markets are moving and the way the stats, the things you guys are looking at, it's different from me. So it's kind of good for me. I learn a lot from you guys watching every week, all the different content on covers, and then kind of taking that and then using it a little bit of my football analysis, what I see from breaking down the tape. So it's good.
Yeah, what I always say, there's not just one specific way to handicap games. There's plenty of different ways to get to the finish line. So hopefully we can get home with a couple of these winners here, that are a couple of these bets that we're giving out. Hopefully that they do become winners tonight. But let's look into the weekend here. A couple of really good games, the Lions-Ravens game, of course, but the game of the weekend going down on Sunday night, Miami Dolphins, my Miami Dolphins, a 2.5-point underdog. They're in Philadelphia, taking on the Eagles, who are coming off just a horrendous loss to the Jets. They were leading for about 90% of that game, and then, they probably should have ran it on third down, but Jalen Hurts throws one of the worst passes you're ever going to see him throw. The Jets pick it off. The rest is history. So great storylines, the two Alabama guys going at it. What do you like for this game?
Yeah, I like Miami, and I just think it's there's such a good offense, and they're not the number one offense in the NFL. They're head and shoulders above everyone else, and I think that to me is the key for this. Is they have so many ways. You saw last week, or I guess it's been 2 weeks ago, they were down 14, and how quickly they're able to come back. So even on a bad day, even with some struggles, they still can turn on. I don't see how Philly can keep up. I look at the cornerback situation in Philly, and I'm a big fan of Darius Slay and Bradbury. Having them last year in that corner combination, I always said they're excellent at what they do because they had a great front four that can get pressure, and those guys can sit back and read routes and play zone or sit on routes in off coverage, just whatever they do as veterans. I don't think they have the foot speed anymore. Obviously, Slay's banged up, but Bradbury doesn't have the foot speed anymore. Joby is, I think he'll be in the third corner. He's obviously, can't hang in man coverage. I just think there's too many matchups that favor the Fins, and for that reason, it's obviously a tough one. But I lean Fins there. Just too many things have to go right for Philly, and things can still go wrong for the Fins. They can still win this game.
Yeah, music to my ears. I like the over in that game. I'm going to stay away from the side. I am a Dolphins fan, but I am a realistic Dolphins fan, and I'll be the first one to tell you they have to learn to win against good teams. They typically don't really show up very well. They don't win against good teams. You saw what happened to Buffalo a couple of weeks ago. But still, this is a team. They're still, a season and a half in the Mike McDaniel era, if you want to call it that. So this could be a big spot for them, and it could be a signature win if they can pick that up in Philadelphia. Question
for you right now. If you have to take one team to get out of the AFC today, who is it?
One team to get out of the AFC today. I think the Dolphins match up really good with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they match up really good with the Kansas City Chiefs. And here's the thing. It's going to be all about home field advantage for them. Now, I know that they did go into Buffalo and they played them really good in December and in the wild card game last year. But if the Dolphins can get that number one overall seed, that's going to bode very well for them, not needing to go into the cold and playing. And they're just so extremely dangerous. They can come out and score 21 points in a quarter. And like I said, I do think that they match up very good with the Kansas City Chiefs, especially the issues that we're kind of seeing with the Chiefs offense. Issues for them, we'll call it. But and Travis Kelce, he's been beat up already quite a few times this season. It's not a young guy out there, right? So let's move from the sexiest game of the week to one of the uglier games of the week. You like a side in this Browns-Colts game, 2.5-point spread favoring Cleveland in this one. What are you looking at here?
The same thing everyone else is, what we've seen from the Cleveland defense. And I did a deep dive. Maybe we'll get into that further next week, or it depends on what we have. But I did a deep dive into that Cleveland defense, and they really, and I've been saying it I want to say I was a little bit ahead of this one, because I'm a DB and I pay attention to the cornerbacks. It's a popular conversation this week, but their trio of corners is as good as anybody in the NFL, and the way they can play. Jim Schwartz kind of defensive, like his theory on defensive fronts is just get upfield, and that's kind of what he allows guys. That's why everyone thought Miles would have such a big year this year, because he's going to give him the freedom to just get upfield. When you have corners like Denzel Ward, if anyone who wants to be a football nerd and watch a guy, a technique, and watch him backpedal in transition, watch Denzel Ward. He's in Cleveland, so he's kind of hidden and doesn't get enough love, but he is as fluid and as smooth in a backpedal. He's 15, 17 yards downfield backpedaling against Brandon Ayuk and flipping his hips and running with him, which I can tell you is freaking hard to do at that speed, that much down the field. But anyway, those two guys on the outside are really good, and the young guy in the slot, who's a big body, he's good. So they have a defense, and I feel like the defense, all the praise they're getting right now, I think they'll come out and have another good performance, and I just expect more from on the offensive side of the ball. So I just feel like the momentum and what they have going there, they're going to keep going this week, and the offense can't get much worse. So I expect it to be better, and I don't see any drop off from the defense, especially all the love they're getting right now, well deserved.
Yeah, that's a team. I wouldn't expect the defense to take the foot off the gas. This isn't a team that's strung together back-to-back wins yet this season, so they do have to get some momentum going. I like the under in that game. I think it has 19-9 written all over it. So we'll see what happens there. But Davis, we will leave it at that for today. Thanks again for joining us. Best of luck with your bets tonight, and we'll catch you again next Thursday.
Good stuff. Let's get it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Guys, if you're in the live chat right now, let us know what your best bets are for tonight, for this weekend. If you're watching the replay, hit up the comment section right down there. Let us know what your best bets are for tonight and for this weekend, whether it be for the NFL or college football. And what a segue this is. Speaking of college football, let's bring in our guy down there in sunny Las Vegas, Brad Powers. Brad, how you making out?
Hey, doing well. Thanks for having me on, as always.
Yes, sir. Okay, great show so far. Let's keep on rolling here. So we got 4 games to discuss. If you missed Brad on Monday's show, he gave out USC -6.5. That's now up to the key number of 7. That's why you want to get in on some of these bets early. And also Penn State, Ohio State under 47. Once again, you missed the best of the number, most likely. That is now down to 45.5. So let's touch on a couple more best bets here, Brad. Then we'll look into some of the bigger games of the weekend. Let's take a look at this Florida Atlantic 3-point spread. They're taking on UTSA, the Road Runners. Do you like the favorite, or do you like the underdog in this game?
Yeah, I like the underdog, Florida Atlantic plus the 3 here, the home underdog, and a couple reasons. Number one, I think UTSA is off a couple of phony finals. Looks like they've controlled matters against their last 2 opponents, Temple and UAB. But the reality is they were outgained in both of those games, benefited from a +2 turnover differential margin in both of those games. So a couple of phony finals says to me that UTSA is a little overrated. And then on the other side, Florida Atlantic, I think the light bulb came on for first-year coach Tom Herman. Off the bye, that they've shaped up quite a bit, beating Tulsa and blowing out South Florida last week. They're doing it in a variety of ways through the run game and also the pass game last week. And then also they're getting pressure on the quarterback with 12 sacks their last 3 games. So this, to me, when you look, keep it simple, better team in yards per play margin, better team in yards per game margin, playing a tougher schedule. This is a case where I like that we're getting the home underdog here +3.
Okay, next up, let's take a look at the Appalachian State Old Dominion, total of 53.5. You think this is going to be a fun one?
Yeah, well, at least funner than what the odds makers are making it out to be. We're going to go over the total here. So I know normally you don't think high scoring with App State, but the reality is both Old Dominion and App State are in the top 20 in the country in terms of tempo. So when you got a total of 53.5, you got 2 teams that run a lot of tempo. That screams value to me. So why is this total only sitting here in the low 50s? Well, both teams that have had a few games this year that have been impacted greatly by weather, including an Old Dominion game against Texas A&M Commerce, where it was a 10-9 game played an absolute slop. That's kind of suppressing the 2 team scoring averages this year. And that, to me, has given us some value here on the over 53.5.
Okay, let's get into some of these big games here. Let us start with Alabama, Tennessee, a big rematch from last year. The total for this one is at 48.5 points. So what are you thinking here, over or under that number?
Yeah, when you think just back to last year's game, which was one of the better games of recent college football history, high scoring game. Not going to be the case in my opinion this year. We're going under this total because if you ask me what teams' units have the advantage over the other, and it's both teams' defenses in this instance. Let's talk Tennessee. What does Tennessee do best defensively? Get after the quarterback. Well, what is Alabama's weakness on offense? Failing to protect Jalen Milroe. They've given up at least 4 sacks in each of their last 5 games, and I expect more of the same this week in that regard. On the other side of the ball, it's become well apparent now that Joe Milton, the quarterback for Tennessee, is a significant downgrade from what they had on offense last year with Hendon Hooker. So I don't expect Tennessee's offense to have success against this Alabama defense. And their best play last week against A&M was a punt return touchdown that kind of inflated their scoring. So under 48.5 for me here.
Okay, let's wrap things up with Florida State and Duke. Florida State favored by 14.5 points. You think they can cover that number?
Yeah, it seems like a big spread, but I don't think it's going to be the case in this instance. And I'm finding value because Mike Elko, the head coach for Duke, came out yesterday and said, he thinks there's a good chance that their quarterback, Riley Leonard's going to play. What did the market do? Well, it reacted immediately to that news, and the line went from 14 down to 13.5. And then we saw the big money come in. Lots of buy prices at 13.5 all the way through that key number. Riley Leonard's not going to play for Duke off that high ankle sprain. He's only a few weeks removed from that. And you got a backup quarterback that, Duke won last week 24-3, but it wasn't because of the offense. It was because of the defense. They're really up against it here on the road against a very well-rested Florida State team looking to extend margin here. So Florida State for me minus 14.5.
Okay, quick question for you here, Brad. Handicapping tips, if you want to call it that. So when I'm handicapping the NFL, the stats that I probably value the most, I look at yards per play, how both the offense and defense perform on third down, and in the red zone. Some people might call those stats kind of basic. I don't get too heavily into the DVOAs and the EPAs, things of that nature. So when you're handicapping college football, what stats do you value the most?
Great question. I try to keep it simple. I mean, I'm trying to incorporate more of the analytics, the EPAs and whatnot. But I mean, I think college football with 133 teams, sometimes it's easier just to keep it simple. So yards per play, margin. I'm always looking for margin, yards per game margin, points per game margin. And I think most important that the market and even the analytics people do not grasp is strength of schedule, because there's such disparity. And yes, you can have great stats, or you can have horrific stats. It's all dependent on who you played and how tough or weak those opponents are. So I think the most important stat is strength of schedule in college football, especially when you get into conference play, because the disparity between the non-conference schedules is so great.
Okay, so one other question it's not rare in college football where you see spreads of 20, 30, sometimes 40 points or more. So what factors do you consider when considering if that favorite can win by margin? Sometimes in the NFL, I just look and say, hey, this team has a history of playing up to the competition. This team has a history of playing down to the competition. The Kansas City Chiefs sometimes let teams hang around. But what do you consider with these gigantic spreads in college football?
Well, as I'm on the wrong side of 40 now, it's tough to get into the thought processes and minds of these college kids. So I don't like to always do motivation anymore like I did maybe even 10 years ago. But I will say this, a couple things I look for is tempo. Does the big favorite run a lot of tempo? Because if that's the case, I'm more prone to be laying it just because there's more plays, more possessions, more opportunities for the stronger team to exert their will over the weaker competition. If they run a slow tempo, like a Michigan or a Georgia, we saw them with big point spreads struggle at least early in the year covering those big point spreads because they're running slow tempo. So that'd be number one. And then, maybe I will get into a little bit the motivation for margin. Did this big underdog beat them last year as far as the series history? Like you mentioned, does this team have, trouble as far as covering big point spreads in the past? Or, you got to basically look at it. Do they have something looking ahead, a big game that maybe they're resting starters in the second half because of a big game on deck?
Okay, one last question here from the chat. Matthew Wingham. I don't know if he asked a similar version of this question the other day, but we'll touch on it again. So, Brad, thoughts on Penn State, Ohio State under? The current number is 45.5, or would you consider looking at a team total under instead? Any thoughts, I guess, on the game under or team total under in that game?
I'm still leaning more towards the under there. I mean, it was best bet material because I thought it was off like 3 points. I made it 44, so I still would lean under. Team total, if you're going to get involved in one, I'm more on the Penn State team total under. I trust Ohio State at home more than a young quarterback on the road making his first big-time road start.
Okay, there we have it. Matthew, thank you very much for the question. Okay, Brad, that does it. Thanks again for joining us. Best of luck with your bets this weekend, and we will catch you again on Monday's show.
Thanks for having me. Good.
Yes, sir. The man right there. One hell of a show today, I got to say. Let's wrap it up with the recap graphics. If you missed the top of the show with our best bets for the Thursday nighter here, my best bets, I've taken the under in every single Saints game this season. And it has hit in every single Saints game this season. And it looks like a pretty good opportunity for it here again tonight. It's not just going off a trend. Plenty of stats to back it up. So I'll take under 40. I like Shaheed, his longest reception, over 18.5, minus 115. And Jingles, similar thought process here. He likes the Jags to go under their team total of 17.5. That will be impacted by if they announce that Trevor Lawrence is or isn't going to play. We probably won't find out until closer to the game. And he likes another team total here, Buffalo, to go over their number of 24.5 at the Patriots. Interesting little nugget here for you guys. So the Patriots, they are an underdog by more than a touchdown in this game. The last time they were an underdog by more than a touchdown at home, 2001. Against the Rams. They did go on to cover, not win that game. Kurt Warner threw for 400 yards in that game. Very interesting stuff. Maybe not at all, actually. Okay, that does it for today. I got to get out of here before I mess something up. It's been a perfect show so far, but we're going to be right back with you guys again tomorrow with an avalanche of picks for Sunday's games. If you like the show, it's easy to let us know. Just hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribed to the Covers YouTube channel as well. Lots of great content on there. There's a gigantic UFC card on Saturday. We have our best bets video up for that, so make sure you check that out if you want to get some bets in on the UFC on Saturday afternoon. The Saturday afternoon card should be a blast. Okay, that does it for today. We will see you again tomorrow. Same time, same place. Best of luck with your bets tonight. Unless you're fading me. See you next time. Woo!